Okay, I'm just about to start doing the fiberglass on the other wing on my 4-meter plank. I just want to kind of do a quick video about how I'm doing it. I've got a full length piece for the top and the bottom, and the way that I'm applying it is I'm doing it beforehand with spray adhesive, in this case Super 77. What that'll do is really stiffen it up because this is a long piece of unsupported foam. And so this will strengthen it up. It'll protect the trailing edge. And I went a little oversized as I found that it just makes it easier sticking it down. I can come back and trim it later. So what I'll do is I'll peel back halfway, Super 77, lay this down, get it all nice. Then I'll peel up the other side and then lay that down. Flip it over, or actually trim it, and then do the same thing to the other side, and that makes it very stiff. And then I'll put it up in a rig or a jig with the leading edge sticking up, so it'll be like that. And then I'll start laying down the reinforcing pieces. And the way the reinforcing works is I'm using the leading edge as kind of the spar. So the way it layers up is we've got 4 ounces of S-glass right now. I've got one roll here that is the entire length. That's 80 inches. And it goes that's about 4 inches wide, so it goes 2 inches on the top and wraps around 2 inches on the bottom. So 4 ounces. And then on the leading edge, we're going to have another 4, so that's then 8. When we get to the 60-inch mark, another roll is going to go on top of that. So now we're at 12 ounces. When we get to the halfway mark of 40 inches, another one goes on. So that puts us at 20 ounces. And then the last 20 inches is a huge piece. It's a full depth, wraps all the way around. And that is another 4 ounces. So in the center, it's 24 ounces of S-glass. So it just kind of gets stiffer and stiffer. It gets closer to the center where all the forces are. So that's how I'm doing my fiberglass at the moment. So I'm going to start doing some of that, and I'll be back soon. Okay, I've got the first layer of fiberglass Super 77 to the other side. I also use this super cheap masking paper so that the overspray goes to the paper, and then I flip the paper over and I can put this down on a fresh piece so all this stuff doesn't get all sticky from the overspray. So next is to get some scissors, trim, the excess off. Doesn't have to be pretty, just most of the excess off, and then Super 77, put on the next full cover. So let's get to work. So now I have top and bottom pieces on and trimmed mostly. This was kind of the simplest way I could get to clamp these things without damaging them. You can kind of see here, just have some pieces of wood, and that'll clamp it to that nice fine point. And now I can take those rolls and roll them, roll these, put these down. I'll spray them, lay these on the top, and kind of push them down on both sides with Super 77. And that'll be the last step for putting fiberglass on. After that, I need to paint the Mylars. So let me get this part done, and then we'll see what it looks like. Okay, it's not super pretty. Still a little cleanup to do. There's some strings and there's some wrinkles, but a lot of that's going to get pulled tight and get worked out once the epoxy gets on and the binders dissolve into that. It'll clean up just fine, and all the epoxy with the plastic pushing on top, it all kind of like self-level. You won't even see any of that. So next thing to do is get the Mylars out, get them cleaned up, and from the previous process, get paint on both of them, and then we can get the epoxy on and vacuum bag it. So a couple more steps. Okay, I've got the Mylars out, ready. I cleaned them off with some acetone. The next thing to do is to put a couple coats of this wax on there, and after that then I'll start painting them, and that part doesn't really take too long. I just gotta let it sit for a day, let the paint dry. So let's get waxing. Alright, so this is the night before. I'm gonna vacuum bag in the morning, just getting everything out and ready. This is actually where I'm going to put the epoxy on here. Got the plastic sheets in place, so once I've got the sandwich done, I can wrap the whole thing in plastic. I got the Mylars painted, and it's set up specifically in this configuration so I can epoxy. This is the top. So I'll epoxy this, I'll epoxy that. I'm going to flip that onto here and then roll this over so that the bottom is facing up. I want the bottom facing up because the way that this was cut, this is actually the top bed, and that's even all the way across. So that is going to go underneath, and it's going to make the wing straight. So I set this up so that as I'm going, I'll end up with the bottom facing down, perfectly matching that piece over there. I've got out some peel ply. I put this on the leading edges. I'll show that when I get to it. My epoxy. At first I'll end up kind of squeegeeing it around, but I always get to the roller because that really evens it out, sucks it up from some places, puts it down in others. Got my breather cloth that will completely wrap around there, and then it'll go in the bags down there. So tomorrow morning, I got all my pieces of tape out ready to go. So getting close, kind of nervous, always nervous. I just want to show the leading edge, how I do it here. What you want to do is, or what I'm doing, not what you should do, but what I'm doing is you want them to just barely, you want it to just barely meet the top and the bottom. I'm going to pinch that together, and I have peel ply. I'm going to wrap that around there and pinch it, and then tape that together, and that will absorb out the an epoxy that squeezes out. I have previously just taped the leading edge, and that tape gets just embedded in that epoxy. It's super hard to clean up. So we will see the results of this after it comes out of the bag. Let's vacuum